Welcome to our webinar, Retirement Planning and Divorce. I'm Kevin Reardon with Shakespeare Wealth Management. Let's talk retirement planning. First and foremost, we're seeing increase in divorce certainly relative to the 1950s and 1960s. And that's creating a whole host of challenges financially for a lot of people. On top of that, we've seen an increase in the rate of divorce after the age of 45. A lot of people in their 50s or 60s on the cusp of retirement who are pulling the plug on their marriage. So this again creates new challenges. Divorce can certainly have a material impact on retirement security if we don't take the proper steps. So let's take a look. First, let's take inventory of your assets. Retirement accounts, bank and brokerage accounts, mutual fund statements, stock options, cash value life insurance, all of these different entities should be accounted for throughout and then after the divorce. Each account has a different tax status. Therefore, not all accounts are equal. As an example, you might have $100,000 in a retirement account and $100,000 in a brokerage account, but the retirement account will be taxed when it's withdrawn, where money in a bank or brokerage account has already been taxed. We want to take inventory of income. What are your income sources? From wages, marital and child support, investment income, business income, real estate income. Of course, we want to look at future income sources, which could include all of the above, Social Security, pensions, and other income sources. Regarding pensions, don't forget about previous employers you or your former spouse may have worked at that had previously had a pension. Obviously, with divorce, there's division of assets. But specifically, we want to talk about retirement accounts. There is only one way to do a tax-free transfer between ex-spouses, and that's through a divorce decree or quadro. On occasion, spouses, when they're splitting up, will have a handshake agreement to simply divide assets. If you facilitate a withdrawal from a retirement account, that is an irreversible mistake, and it will be income taxable. So anytime, tip number one, do not transfer or divide any assets without the written direction from your divorce attorney. Rely on that divorce decree or quadro to do the transfer. Tip number two goes without saying, but it's important to note, never attempt to shelter assets or income before, during, or after divorce. It's not ethical and creates bad will. And tracking assets and income is very easy to do in today's electronic age. So let's talk about savings. Certainly, divorce impacts your savings. In essence, you're dividing one household into two, so there will be fewer assets per household. And certainly, divorce impacts your ability to save. You want to control your spending to allow for continued savings. A big part of that is shutting off those automatic withdrawals that you have, the monthly cell phone bill, cable bill, things like that. Defer big purchases. Review every single expense when you're starting over from divorce. And make sure you continue the same savings rate after divorce. If you were saving at 15% before the divorce, it should still be 15%, just on a different number. And then home considerations, and this is a sensitive topic. Maintaining the family home after divorce usually creates financial strain. Children are more impacted by your current and future financial constraints than they would be by moving to a less expensive home. Really focus on the budget. A divorce really implies that you should be downsizing the house. And make sure you allow 12 months to ease into the new budget. That's not to say you should wait to shut off some of your expenses or really dig into your expense and reduce spending. Actually, to the contrary, you should reduce expenses immediately. And over the next 12 months, as you get used to your new lifestyle, cost of living, if your budget allows, you can slowly add back some of those expenses. Let's take a look at some of the financial building blocks. Paying yourself first through savings is critical. before anything happens, you want to look and shift assets out of a savings account to an investment account, or out of your wages and into a 401k account. Quantify your spending so we know what your monthly budget is. Reserve 3 to 6 months worth of expenses in an emergency fund, a bank, or a savings account. We need to anticipate the car breaking down, the need for a new furnace, a leaky roof, those things that crop up from time to time. And although we're going to quantify expenses, we need to anticipate what we call lumpy expenses or occasional expenses. Things like car purchases, children going to college, taking a vacation, obviously health insurance. All of these lumpy expenses. What happens when the kids get married? Who's going to pay for that, and what's your budget? We need to anticipate those things so you're not surprised. Deferring gratification is hugely important. As traumatic as divorce can be, we don't want to cover that up with excess consumption. Continue to defer your gratification through savings. Compound interest, we want to focus on those investments and get your money working for you, both now and towards retirement. And by focusing on the big picture, identifying what's truly the most important thing in your life will guide you in all your other spending. Beneficiary designations are hugely important when it comes to retirement planning. It's important to note that beneficiary designations are more important than what's written in your will. Complete a new beneficiary designation immediately upon divorce. It's not uncommon where we've seen many ex-spouses who've been awarded money because a pre-divorce beneficiary designation was not updated. Look at retirement accounts, both current and old retirement accounts, to make sure the beneficiary designations are properly updated. And life insurance policies, both individual policies and policies you may have at work or your ex-spouse may have at work. Keeping in mind that when someone changes employment, those forms need to be updated appropriately. Social Security is a huge part of retirement readiness in a very complex area. First, if your marriage has lasted longer than 10 years or less than 10 years, you can only claim benefits on your own earnings history. If it's lasted more than 10 years, you get the greater of half of your ex-spouse's benefit or 100% of your own benefit. This applies even if your former spouse is remarried or deceased, and you must not be remarried to claim off your ex-spouse's benefit. Interestingly, more than one ex-spouse can receive benefits on the same worker's record. Benefits paid to one ex-spouse do not affect those paid to the worker, to the current spouse, or to any other ex-spouses. The worker is not notified that an ex-spouse has applied for benefits on their record. It's confidential. And again, divorced spouse benefits stop upon remarriage. There is a widow benefit if you've been married for more than 10 years and your ex-spouse is deceased. You can claim a widower benefit on the ex-spouse's record. So financial planning after divorce, meet with a financial advisor to complete a financial plan. Everything in your finances has changed, from assets to income to expenses. As traumatic as divorce can be, focus on things you can control. Expenses, how your assets are invested, and your income to a small degree. Perhaps you're working more or less. Perhaps you're going back for school for additional training, things like that. Understand that lifestyle changes are needed. Specifically, your budget can and must change. To be pointed, you must be spending less money after divorce than you were before divorce. Focus on your family, which is truly important to you, and embrace your new situation. We hope you've enjoyed this webinar. If you require additional assistance, feel free to reach out to us at any time. Thanks for listening.